What's going on, Locks Mob, and welcome back to the Week 8 edition of Addy's Action. Appreciate y'all finding your way back to this video. If you haven't already, please do like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the content that we're putting out. All of it really does mean a lot. I mean, y'all do a great job of showing love on all these videos. It means so much. Like, I mean, I saw the love last week's video did. I think we hit over 4,000 views, which is like crazy. I mean, when I first did Addy's Action, which was week 3, we hit 300 views, and I remember I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, thank you guys so much for 300 views on this first video, and it's just grown so fast that like I really can't thank y'all enough. So I appreciate it a lot, and if you haven't already, please do hit subscribe. It really helps us out. Also, follow me on Twitter at reallyaddy. This is where I'm at. This is where you can reach out to me, hit me up. I mean, I know I don't get to respond to every comment because we do get a lot, but if you DM me, tweet at me, let me know. I like to have conversations on here, so I like to talk football, I like to talk basketball, I like to talk hockey, baseball, any sport. So hit me up on here, man. Be active, reach out to me. I do a good job of responding to people here, in DMs and just in tweets in general. But yeah, so usually we start this week off by going over a few of the plays I went over in Addy's Action, in addition to my cash and single lineup team. Because I do only play one lineup, as you guys know. So that one lineup was this: Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Duke Johnson, John Brown, Josh Gordon, Josh Reynolds, David Njoku, Zeke, and the Ravens defense. I did mention earlier on the pod last week and on Addy's Action that I wasn't really into Josh Reynolds because I thought they would sacrifice him to Richard Sherman. After Richard Sherman was ruled out, I ended up pivoting onto him from, I think I had a 49ers wide receiver in here. But ended up pivoting on to Josh Reynolds. But I guess in hindsight, I should have realized that he probably just wasn't part of the game plan that week. Like, they probably practiced all week, assuming they were going to sacrifice him, and it just looked like that. But, we missed cash here with this lineup. I think it's my first week missing cash. I think I cashed the last 3 or 4 weeks in football. So it's okay, man. It happens. It's the natural ebbs and flow of the season. Josh Reynolds, Josh Gordon, and John Brown each got tackled at the 1-yard line. So when all 3 of your wide receivers get tackled at the 1, there's something going on there. And then Zeke, in addition to the Zeke bust, it just wasn't a week. It wasn't a week that we were gonna cash. But I like the process, and I think we're gonna go back to it this week. I got some fire plays for you guys, some really, really awesome plays. So with that being said, let's start it. Let's just get right into it. So obviously we're going to start at quarterback, and we start these videos by sort of identifying the chalk of the week and then where I'm going to deviate from there. So I think, and like pardon I'm a little bit sick. Let me open this blind and stuff, get some light in here. I'm a little bit sick. Just the weather's changing in New York. I mean, it's cold. It's really, really cold here. So just if I got a runny nose or something, my bad about that, if I'm sniffling and all that. But yeah, let's talk about it. So Pat Mahomes looking like the chalk, deservedly so, and as well as Jared Goff. Pat Mahomes, an awesome play home versus a Denver defense that hasn't looked as imposing this year, although they have looked better the past 2 weeks. Kansas City still projected for like 31.75 points. Awesome play, and they're so pass happy at home, and they like to bury teams at home, so they really never take their foot off the gas. So love Pat Mahomes. In addition, Jared Goff, sort of the same reason. I mean, his team is projected to score 33 points. I think we all know he's kind of due for some positive touchdown regression, because I mean, Todd Gurley steals every touchdown so far, and I think he'll still steal a bunch of them, but probably shouldn't be everyone. So I think Goff is due for some positive touchdown regression. But because of that, because I think the chalk is going to be so heavy on Jared Goff, the guy that I'm personally going to pivot to, and I think I'll probably, I don't want to say for sure because it's still early, but I'll probably make this move in cash as well, and that's going to be Jameis Winston. This is a sheer volume play. I mean, it would not surprise me one bit if I woke up this morning, or if I woke up Monday morning and saw Jameis Winston with double the pass attempts that Jared Goff has. Like we saw like last week, he threw 52 times. I'll go ahead and put that guy in my lineup. And then Jared Goff, on the other hand, threw the ball 24 times. So he threw the ball half as much as He threw the ball less than half as much as Jameis Winston. I mean, this Tampa Bay team needs to pass to succeed for their system to work. They don't have a reliable run game as opposed to Jared Goff, who has the most reliable run game in football. They're way more tempted to lean on that. It just in between the 20s and even in the red zone, as we can tell by Todd Gurley's insane red zone usage. But on the other hand, Jameis Winston's kind of everything. He brings you a good rushing floor as well versus a Cincy defense that does permit yards on the ground to quarterbacks. Cincinnati ranks 27th in the league versus wide receivers. I believe they're in the top 5 or no team. Let me get it right. They're in the bottom 5 in catches allowed to wide receivers this year. And I am obsessed with Jameis Winston this week, along with his supporting cast. I think Deshaun Jackson is a smash play. I'm going to talk about him in this video in a little bit. I think Mike Evans is an awesome play due for a lot of positive touchdown regression coming his way. OJ Howard, I'm going to talk about him in this video as well. I am very high on this Bucks offense and on the Bucks in general, as is Vegas. If we pull up Vegas and we go to this Bucks game, we can see that the line opened at Cincinnati at +6. Tampa Bay's received 32% of the bets, yet they've gone from +6 to +3.5. That's fairly significant reverse line movement. We usually don't see reverse line movement that big in NFL. And I know you guys like it when I explain things, because I always say like reverse line movement. What is that? Reverse line movement is when, like, as you can see in this situation, they've received only 32% of the bets, yet the line has moved in their favor. So what that indicates to us is that the sharp money, like this 32% right here that I'm hovering over, contains more of the money than this 68%. So this 68% is kind of what you would call the public. And it's kind of like a rule in sports betting. You just want to fade the public, man. The public is always wrong. So as you can see, the 56% of the bets on the over, it's jumped a point. So a lot of sharp money on the over, a lot of sharp money on the Bucks. And count me in on that as well. I am fully in on that. I buy in. Let me back out of this tab. No need for that. But yeah, I buy in on Jameis Winston. I think he's going to pick apart this beat up Cincinnati secondary. They rank 27th in the league in adjusted sack rate. I think 22nd in the league in quarterback hit rate. They're not getting pressure. They're going to miss Vontaze Burfict, their other linebacker, Nick Vigil. They're going to miss their slot cornerback as well. They're banged up. We saw the Cincinnati defense get ripped apart without Vontaze Burfict early in the year, and nothing really changed when he came back, and I think it's going to continue. So I'll have a ton of exposure to Jameis, and I think straight up I probably like Jameis Winston over Jared Goff, just straight up. Give me the volume all the time. Let me get a tissue. My nose is running. Man, it is cold in New York. It is so cold here. But I'm actually headed back to Denver. I hear it's a little warmer there, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. But anyways, let's move on. I think that's enough on quarterback. Jameis Winston, lock him up, smash play. And yeah, he'll probably be my cash game quarterback as well. I think for running back, I have a few ownership projections pulled up, and I think everything I'm seeing right now has Todd Gurley as the fat chalk, and deservedly so. What is this? All right, never mind that. So Todd Gurley as the fat chalk, deservedly so. James Conner after that, then Kareem Hunt. I think if you listen to the podcast that me, Taylor, and Christian just recorded last night, we kind of started our lineups with those three guys as well. So very high on all of them, but we're not going to talk about all of them for that reason. I do think you could just jam in Todd Gurley this week. James Conner's probably the same way, and Kareem Hunt. I know Taylor's higher on Kareem Hunt than James Conner. Ownership says otherwise, but he definitely has a point with Kareem Hunt resembling Todd Gurley with this pass game usage, but and just like an underpriced Todd Gurley. But I like James Conner a ton too. So between those three guys, I think that's where the chalk is gonna go. So we're kind of gonna go, dip down a bit into this mid-price range. Now, I was going to talk about Jalen Richard, but he's actually popping in a few I see him popping in a few ownership projections as well as like the fourth highest owned running back. I think he's an awesome play in the pace up spot versus Indianapolis. Oakland's 29th in pace, yet Indianapolis is first in situation neutral pace. So this is a huge pace up spot for this Raiders offense. So love Jalen Richard in a game script that should be positive for him, negative for the Raiders, which would be positive for him since he's a receiving back, as well as Martavis Bryant. Jared Cook seems a little underpriced. Jordy Nelson is popping his chalk in wide receiver. So I like a lot of these guys. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Marley Mack, the other side of this game. I'm very high on Marley Mack. I think he's a super talented running back. I think this Oakland defense is very exploitable. And I think in general, this spot of Andrew Luck's running back is a desirable position because of the volume. Like, you're going to get Andrew Luck's going to get his volume. We know that. But Marley Mack got 19 carries last week, 3 targets. He put up 35 DraftKings points because he found the end zone twice. He will lose some pass game usage to Nyheim Hines, but not too much because Marley Mack is a good receiving back. So he'll lose a little bit of pass game usage, but he is looking like a kind of their workhorse now. Or I think he got like 60% of the snaps and like all the touches or a bunch of the touches. So I love him. It's a great matchup versus a woefully average Oakland run defense. They rank right in the middle around 17th in the league in run defense. So very, very average. And they're slow is the thing. Speed versus Oakland, speed versus New England. Those have been spots we like to target and we will continue to target. So I'm going to do that with Marlon Mack in this matchup. I think he's got good touchdown equity. This is what I was saying earlier. Andrew Luck's going to get his volume. But he's going to bring them into the red zone a lot. I mean, this offense is going to move. So there's going to be opportunities for touchdowns versus this Oakland team. And this game could very well shoot out because their defense, the Indianapolis defense, is not that formidable in its own right. A big reason we weren't touching any of these Colts running backs was just due to the fact that this offensive line was so banged up. Anthony Costanzo was hurt for a big part of this, early part of this year. So. But he's back, and they're fully ready to go. I mean, their offensive line has actually looked very, very good the past couple weeks. They've been one of the best in the league in both the run and pass blocking the past couple weeks, and it looks like it's coming together for the Colts. So I like Marlon Mack. He's a really underpriced workhorse at 5.4K in my opinion. Moving on, I got 2 wide receiver plays for y'all. The first one I'm going to talk about is the guy I mentioned that I would talk about. That's Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson, the past 2 games with Jameis Winston, leads them in air yards at like 268. Cincinnati ranks 27th in the league versus wide receivers. As I mentioned, they're in the top 5 for catches given up to wide receivers. They're 25th in the league versus number 1 wide receivers. They're 27th in the league versus number 2 wide receivers. All their cornerbacks are pretty slow. Deshaun Jackson is waiting to explode. He only got 4 targets last week, but he did good with them. Actually, I can just pull that up. 4 targets last week. He didn't do good with them, but he did score a touchdown rushing on I think it was like a 14-yard carry rushing that he had. But prior to that, he got 9 targets, 8 targets. And if Deshaun Jackson's getting targets like this, then he should probably be priced closer to the low 6 range than the low 5 range. And this is an awesome matchup. I cannot stress enough how much I love this matchup. And I love the fact that I think the game should shoot out on the other end. So getting Deshaun Jackson at low ownership in what should be negative game script, which again is positive for him because negative game script means trailing. So that's great for him. I think they're going to be chucking the ball a lot. I genuinely believe that Jameis Winston is going to throw the ball at least 50 times this game. That's a bold call, but I just feel so strongly in the fact that they're just going to air it out. I trust Andy Dalton and this pretty potent Bengals offense to put up points and force the Bucs to sort of play catch up. But yeah, so huge on Deshaun Jackson this week. I think he's an absolute smash play, as is Mike Evans. If you want to pay up at wide receiver, and not kind of go with the chalky guys like a AB or who's going to be chalky up there? Actually, probably not too many guys, to be honest, because high price running backs is such a good play, which actually leads me to what I meant to talk about as an awesome GPP strategy, which would be paying up for wide receiver. I'm assuming most of you listen to the podcast. That's why I don't want to like harp on it again and again. But this is a GPP video, so basically all these wide receivers are underpriced. If this was like last year, like Antonio Brown, 8.5K home versus the Browns. Last year, he'd be like 9.8K. AJ Green would probably be more as well. Mike Evans would probably be a little bit more. Like, these guys all seem fairly underpriced. So if you want to go like a pretty cool route of just like fading all these high-end running backs, going with some of these low-end running backs like Marley Mack, Kerryon Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, and then paying up at wide receiver, I think that'll differentiate your lineup from a positional aspect. Like, people won't have that build, so I think that is an interesting way to go. Moving on. Do I want to talk about a second? Because I still will talk about Martavis Bryant. I was going to talk about Martavis Bryant, but then we talked about him on the podcast. But actually, you know what? No, I'm going to leave that because I got a few other guys I really want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about Courtland Sutton again because I know you guys don't want to hear me talk about Courtland Sutton for like the 10th straight week. So I'm not going to talk about Courtland Sutton again, although I love him at 3,800 versus Kansas City. I mean, they're looking to trade Demaryius Thomas. They're ready for Courtland Sutton to take the reins as sort of the deep threat. And just like the lead dog as far as outside wide receivers go. And they're ready for him to take over. He looks like he's ready to take over. I mean, this guy has been fingertips away from slate-breaking games, like I say every week. And I'm going to keep rostering him till it happens because I'm going to buy in on that, man. I love Courtland Sutton. But regardless, I'm actually going to talk about old man Larry Fitzgerald. Sitting here at 4.4K. This is a guy who got back-to-back 8-target weeks, did catch a touchdown last week, which was nice to see. Josh Rosen is moving this offense better than Sam Bradford did, which is, I mean, doesn't say much because Sam Bradford didn't move this offense at all. But Josh Rosen is moving it a bit. He's hit Christian Kirk deep a few times. That's opened up things across the middle for Larry Fitz. They got a new offensive coordinator now, so they got Byron Leftwich calling plays for them, and he said that he wants to get Larry Fitzgerald more involved, and he also said that he wants to use David Johnson like Arian Foster as sort of a space back, get him more receptions, get him out in space as opposed to just between the tackles, which is a huge boost to David Johnson's value. He's priced up a little bit at 6.7K, which is cheap if he actually gets like that kind of usage, but we don't know yet, and we're just going off coach speak right now. So we got coach speak for both these Arizona guys, and I'm more likely to buy in on coach speak for a 4.4K player who's I mean, Larry Fitzgerald should not be 4.4K. This guy has a lot left in the tank, man. If you like touchdowns, if you like 100-yard games, like, this guy is gonna give it to you, man. He's so consistent. 5 catches, he'll get it for you if this offense can just get clicking and moving. And I think they have a chance. I mean, we've seen slot wide receivers, which is where Larry Fitzgerald runs all his routes. We've seen slot wide receivers have massive success versus this 49ers secondary. And it's a spot that I'm still willing to go back to. I'm willing to buy into the coach speak. He gives you a high PPR floor. So I think he's suitable as well in cash games. But Larry Fitzgerald's a guy that could very easily pop off for a couple touchdowns. And he tends to thrive in these weeks right before the bye. So definitely excited to buy low on Larry Fitz this week. Man, I am sick. It's crazy. But some dead air right there, but it's all good. I feel like I rush these videos, I just ramble. But I think just taking breaks, reflecting, re-looking at my stats, and then coming back at it is a good way to go about this. But yeah, so with that being said, I like Deshaun. I like Larry Fitz. I think the chalk at wide receiver is probably going to go towards like Robert Woods is going to get some ownership. I can pull up a few of these ownership projections and let you know because I do think it'll be more the cheap wide receivers that are owned. So there's some T.Y. Hilton, Jordy Nelson, Jordy Nelson's a good play. Martavis Bryant, which is why I didn't talk about him because he's starting to pop as a fairly chalk play. He's up there just because he's so cheap at 3.7K, and I talked about the pace-up spot. But, yeah, it looks like a lot of these cheap wide receivers will be owned. So, like I talked about, a good strategy could be paying up at wide receiver to differentiate your lineup. But, anyways, let's move on to tight end. So, at tight end right now, what's popping as the chalk is David Njoku. Makes sense. I see David Njoku, I see CJ Uzomah, and I see Travis Kelce as kind of the top three options here. David Njoku makes sense. Pittsburgh does allow the most pass attempts per game to the tight end position. They kind of funnel targets over there. I'm personally off this game as a whole. I mean, not this game, sorry. This side of the game as a whole. I'm not targeting Cleveland. I don't want any piece of that. I think the Steelers defense is gonna wreak havoc on this Browns offensive line. The Browns rank 32nd in the league in adjusted sack rate. Their offensive line, they give up a ton of pressure. Baker Mayfield's a guy who is not good at avoiding pressure. He steps into blitzes. He steps into pressure a lot of the time. So I'm not on board with that. The Steelers defensive line ranks 4th in the league in adjusted sack rate, so they get pressure. The Browns give up a bunch of pressure. David Njoku might spend a lot of time blocking this game. And if he is running routes, I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to have enough time to hit him. So I'm a lay off Njoku. I like Uzomah. I don't think he's a guy that they're actively looking to get involved. Like, I mean, if he's open to throw to him, if not, whatever. They still got AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. So I don't think they're actively looking to get him involved. I'm comfortable fading that. And then Travis Kelce at 6.8K, I think is a phenomenal play if you can afford him for sure. But with that being said, a few guys are going under owned, and one of them that I want to talk about is Jimmy Graham. Now, I have a theory. I don't know if it's valid or not yet, but here's my theory. So I think that high-scoring offenses like the Falcons and the Rams, I think they're extremely comfortable giving up targets over the middle because targets over the middle are generally low-danger targets. You're not in a lot of danger giving up a deep threat or a deep bomb or letting someone beat you over the top or a guy catching a ball and housing it. That's rarely going to happen on a pass over the middle because a lot of defenders over there. There's a lot of traffic over there a lot of the time. So I think these high-scoring teams are comfortable giving up the middle of the field. We see Atlanta do it. We've seen the Rams do it. I mean, they funnel targets to the tight end as well. I think they're comfortable giving up the middle of the field because they know they score so many points that they just kind of want to contain teams and not get beat over the top. They'll hold teams, force them to kick a field goal, and then just do their thing with their dynamic offenses. That's my theory. We'll see. I mean, we saw George Kittle go off versus this Rams defense last week. Jimmy Graham is a guy who's seen increased targets the past 2 weeks, 9 and 10 targets the past 2 weeks. And if he's receiving that kind of volume, he should be 6K. I'll say it again. If Jimmy Graham's receiving 9 to 10 targets, he should be 6K. He did receive those targets because of Geronimo Allison being out and Randall Cobb being out. Allison will play and Cobb is questionable. So if Cobb is in, Cobb specifically, because Cobb runs routes out of the slot. So if Cobb is in, he will take a few of those middle of the field targets away from Jimmy Graham. But I still really like him in this matchup. I mean, the Rams they give up the 6th most yards to the position at 71.1 per game. They're in like the bottom 10 in catches allowed to the position. Pass attempts per game, they're in the bottom 5 to the position. So, again, Jimmy Graham is a guy with massive touchdown equity on a team with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Like that, Aaron Rodgers tight end has always been a targetable fantasy position. And when it's someone as talented as Jimmy Graham, like all the more reason to go back to it. And Jimmy Graham, like I was saying, he's always been a guy with massive touchdown equity. So if he's ever really getting the targets, like 9 or 10 targets, then you just got to lock him in because that's enough said. Like he's giving you massive touchdown equity along with 9, 10 targets and a solid amount of air yards and potential for yards. I love Jimmy Graham. So I'm very, very high on him. I'll probably plug him in. I like the fact that he's 100 more than David Njoku because I think if everyone's going to play David Njoku, 1,000% give me Jimmy Graham. Another tight end I said that we were talking about, and I'm going to talk about, I wasn't planning on talking about him because I didn't think he would be so low in ownership projections. It just doesn't make sense to me, but he is for some reason. He's like 15th or something, which is wild because he's so underpriced. But that's OJ Howard, man. 3.9K. Similar to Aaron Rodgers' tight end, Jameis Winston's tight end has always been a very fantasy-friendly position. Cameron Brate has ate there for a while. And he's still in the mix, but O.J. Howard set season highs in snaps played, routes run, and targets last week with 9. 9 targets versus a Cincy defense that is like the other two defenses I mentioned in the sense that they do give up a lot of points across the middle of the field to slot wide receivers in general, and tight ends as well. I mean, this Cincy defense and secondary is a mess. They're missing 2 of their key linebackers in Vigil and Burfitt, which is the guys that would be tasked with covering a guy like O.J. Howard. So one of my favorite plays this week, and something I could genuinely see myself doing in cash because of the secure volume, is something I usually don't do, and that's just double stacking. Double stacking Winston with Jackson and Howard. I think that's a fire move for GPPs, and I think it's something someone like me who kind of plays one lineup and wants to win a GPP while still having a solid cash lineup. I think assuring myself the volume of Winston, like the 50 plus throws and getting 2 of his receivers in what should be positive game script for them, I think I'm gonna do that. So I love OJ Howard, I love Jimmy Graham. And I think they're both superior pivots to a lot of this chalk opening. Because, CJ Uzoma is chalk. He's 3.5K in the exact same game. I'd rather play the more talented tight end who's actually got a secure role in this offense for only 400 more. Count me in. With that being said, let's move to defense. Defense, again, like I always say, I'm not in the business of projecting defensive ownerships. All you can really do is target cheap defenses who are going to get pressure, or I should just say defenses who are going to get pressure, but typically you want them to be cheap as well because defense is just such a high variance position. And this week, DraftKings did it for us. Coming into this week, I told myself, objectively, my favorite defense, probably the defense I think should be the most expensive defense, is the Steelers. They're not good. They're not that talented of a defense. They're not a bad defense because they can get pressure. They have the 4th highest adjusted sack rate, and so they're gonna pressure this offensive line. There's not much more to be said because I talked about it. But I was going through like who I think is gonna be the top defense this week, just looking at like Vegas and we can honestly just pull up Vegas and show you guys like. We see the Jets are projected for a few points, so the Bears defense will be owned. But if we go to the Browns, I think I skipped by him. Did I skip by him? Yeah, there we go. So the Browns open at 21.5, and now they've moved to they lost a point on their total. This whole game is trending a little downwards. 31% of bets on the over, yet it's dropped 1.5 points. So a lot of sharp money on the under in this game. So I really like just James Conner. Pair him up with the Steelers defense, which is egregiously mispriced, which is crazy that like probably the most mispriced player on the slate is the Steelers defense. Like I would genuinely pay like $3,500 for him. So give me the Steelers defense at $2,300. Just lock that in. If you want to pivot around, you can go to the Lions defense. The Seattle offensive line has been a spot to target all year, and Detroit very sneakily, if that's a word, Detroit is the league leader in adjusted sack rate. They have a pretty ferocious front seven, and they pressure the quarterback at a very, very strong rate. So definitely think Lions defense could work well versus Russell Wilson, who is prone to throwing interceptions and holding onto the ball for too long. And you can pair him up with Kerryon Johnson as well, who's opening up as some chalk at running back, and rightfully so. But yeah. So I think with that being said, that'll do it for Addy's Action. We are still running a giveaway. So basically, we just like encourage you guys or ask you guys, leave us a positive comment. Leave us something, your favorite bold call of the week. Some comment, like, subscribe, and leave that comment. And we're always just going through our comments. And then every week on Monday, when we record our Monday Night Football Showdown podcast, we're going to announce a winner, and that winner is going to get to choose between the NFL, NBA pass. They're both $250 value, or NFL's $150, NBA's $250, and we may even be able to convince you could get an NHL pass, which is $250. And NHL is going crazy. We binked GPPs on Friday, which was huge. Massive days. We had Slack members winning thousands of dollars. So if you're not with us for other sports, man, you should get with us for those sports because because football is not the only sport we go really, really hard on. So definitely hit us up over there. You guys know where to find me, at Really Addy. You could follow the company as well, at Locks DFS. And yeah, with that being said, appreciate y'all a lot. Thank you for checking me out again. Hope to see you again next week, and let's make some cash. Peace.